Hello, Brobs. I'm back with Mole Books. I got the brilliant idea the other night before work today. I would have, well, I guess it's yesterday now. I would go to the thrift store since I had an easy night at work tonight. And these are the results of that little trip. Midnight Graffiti. What is this? 15 more books? So I probably found 70 books this week, which is disgusting. But the first book is Midnight Graffiti, which features the ever rotten Stephen King, Harlan Ellison, Dan Simmons, David C. J. Scow, and Nancy Collins. Rainy Season by Stephen King, which I don't know anything about. But I grabbed it because I could probably flip it for $10. If not, then I will just keep it on my shelf with other Stephen King books, which I collect for money purposes only, investment purposes, because I'm a businessman. Couple true crimers for my mammy. M. William Phillips's I'll Be Watching You, which I may or may not have. Didn't really check while I was at the thrift store. See if it's in my libib, whatever the hell you call it. But I probably should have, but I just didn't. Clean cut and popular Edwin Ned Snellgrove shocked friends. Let's turn on the. There we go. There he is. He shocked friends and colleagues with a sordid history of violence against women, beginning with the brutal killing of his. I mean, he killed his college girlfriend. Is there really an expectation that he's gonna reform? Corey Mitchell murdered innocents. This book's in great shape. On a December night in Austin, Texas, teenagers Jennifer Harbison and Eliza Thomas closed up the yogurt store where they worked. The girls were joined by Jennifer's younger sister, Sarah, and her friend, Amy Ayers. Less than an hour later, all four girls were dead, tragic victims of an apparent fire, until it was discovered that the girls had been bound and gagged, sexually assaulted, and shot execution style. Now that I read that forward or whatever it is, I realized that me mother mentioned that a few weeks back. Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky, which I only got because it is a good cover. This guy right here, criminal. He's gonna be punished. Nice cover. I will always get vintage mass market. By the way, I'm building a little book rack on my stairwell to the basement, which ought to be fun. Nora Loft's White Hell of Pity. The enthralling saga of a young woman's lost innocence and her passions. Does it say a passionate discovery of love? I like how the covers just cuts off the word. Love and betrayal. Ever since she was a little girl, Emmy knew there must be something better. Her childhood was bleak, her family stricken by poverty, and her own life a wasteland of tears. Emmy escaped, but to what? Was it really a better world that she found, or was it just another kind of hell? An engrossing story of love and betrayal, of dreams and disillusionment, of hope and despair by Nora Loft's one of the world's favorite storytellers. On we move. Bad Mouth, Fugitive Papers on the Dark Side. By Robert M. Adams. Bad Mouth is about the current exhaustion of our vocabulary of abuse, of horror, disgust, and negation, because the modern imagination has relied so heavily on these themes. Their increasing depletion and vulgarization pose serious consequences for literary and plastic arts, of which Mr. Adams tries to suggest a few. From insult and invective, the author moves to a discussion of the ugly. From there to meditations on the new art of political lying. He concludes with some thoughts on the modern obscene as a set of effects so deadened by now as to be hard to achieve authentically, and on rags and garbage as prevailing metaphors of the modern condition. I don't know if you're still with us, Mr. Adams, but you wrote this in 1977. I feel for you if you're still alive, experiencing what we are now, this degradation. This is a book I'll add to my YouTube reading channel. Bad Mouth. Yeah, this poor guy, if he's alive now, he would just be mortified by what we've become. Look at that lizard tongue. He'd be even more mortified to know that people are actually bifurcating thy tongues. Will James Smokey. I was going to look this one up, because Smokey was a horse, a mouse-colored pony who was marked for adventure from the day of his birth. And this is the story of his life from the day he first saw the light out on the open range to the day he returned to the only master he ever acknowledged, Clint of the old rocking R. Good old Clint. Grosset and Dunlap. What's that say? 59 or 29? 29. Charles Scribner. The main reason I got it was because of the Hudson's Bookshop label on it. Another one for the collection. Be a bonus if it's actually worth something, but it doesn't matter. The South Since Reconstruction, edited by Thomas D. Clark. I've always said that Reconstruction was the coffin nail in America. The death was the Civil War, which should never happen. But they wanted it, and they got it. So, put this into the Civil War. Yes. Collector's Value Guide to Pokemon. This book actually has some value, but a child would get it if said child wants said book. Lately, though, my child has seemingly grown out of these cards. Not the cards, but the books. I tried showing a picture, and she was like, I don't read baby books. So I'm like, I don't know what to do with it, but we'll see. Ingersoll Lockwood, the collection. The Last President, or 1900, Travels and Adventures of Little Baron Trump. Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey. I'm assuming that most people have heard of the Baron Trump novels that were written by Mr. Ingersoll Lockwood back in whenever they were written, late 1800s. Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground. There were several Baron Trump books, maybe two. I've never read them, but it's very curious that Baron Trump is now an actual person. Maybe Trump actually read these books. Anyway, can't hurt to have a copy of it, can it? Collected works of Ingersoll Lockwood, the Baron Trump novels, and 1900 or the last president have seen a resurgence in interest since Donald Trump's election to president of the United States in 2016. All of these titles were written before the turn of the 20th century, but both contain eerie similarities with modern-day political events. For the first time, all the works are presented in a single volume so readers can decipher for themselves whether Lockwood's words were a telling of things to come or just a curious coincidence of American literature. All the original copies, which were of the books, which basically were, I don't know how much they were worth before somebody discovered the parallels, but now they sell for hundreds of dollars, I think even thousands. Be nice to find a copy, but probably never will, so that was a nice find in the thrift store basket of new arrivals today. Life Along the Silk Road, Susan Whitefield. I don't know what it's about. The first 1,000 years after Christ, merchants, missionaries, monks, mendicants, and military men traveled on the vast network of Central Asian tracks that became known as the Silk Road, linking Europe, India, and the Far East. The route passed through many countries and many settlements from the splendid city of Samarkand. Yeah, I bought it just because it seemingly has some relative value. Maybe $10 at the most, but I don't know if I'm going to sell it. This book actually has $20 to $30 value. I collect Malachi Martin for his books on, I think they're on exorcism and the such, but occasionally at the thrift store I go to, somebody must be reading through his novels as well, because I've seen a few, but most were not worth money. This one seems to be. I don't know if the others in the so-called Vatican series are, but it's actually a nice copy. Doubt I'll be what? Hitler. What year was this? Written in the 80s. I remember listening to Malachi Martin in the 90s on Mark Scott's show in Detroit. 86. This is the first edition, so Malachi Martin was always a good guest on there. I believe he's deceased now, but Native Tongues, Charles Berlitz. Probably, I don't think I have this book, but you never know. 1982. Does this book smell like cigarettes? No. Yeah, it kind of does smell like cigarettes, maybe. There's a scent of something to it. An Almanac of Words at Play by William R. Espy, author of The Game of Words. He is apparently a comedian of sorts. was written probably the 80s. 75. I wish Espy's delightful ramble through the language would last a year, as an almanac should. I devoured it in a day or so. With great pleasure, John Chancellor. Exciting. The Rolling Stone Book of the Beats. Not in very good shape. Rather stained and sullied. But goes into my collection of the Beats, who I dislike greatly. I think Kerouac was at least funny. And that's going to be it. If there were stores open tomorrow or today on Easter, I'd be at them, but I don't think they're all. All right, brovs. That's all. Goodbye. Good boy.